Welcome back to The Oddity Shop, the podcast where we tell you creepy, odd, weird, strange, and bizarre stories from around this little tiny globe we live upon. Curator Kara, how the hell are you today?
I'm okay.
Just okay?
I'm actually not.
You're struggle bussing.
I am. I am on a combination of Motrin 800 and I can't remember what it is, but a muscle relaxer like 3 times a day because my body is so effed up. Here's the deal. I've been going through it and I'm so stressed out, but I've been telling my brain that I'm not stressed out and I've been doing things to not stress me out, right? Like reading, I think we talked about it, whatever. And it's working for my brain, but my body's like, girl, shut the fuck up. You are stressed out. And so my back muscles, my neck muscles, my shoulder muscles, everything is so tense. I haven't really slept in like 5 nights and my eczema has flared up everywhere.
Oh my God.
So my body's like, girl, you're a liar. But my brain is like, hey.
And I'm your creator, Zach.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I have done everything today but what I needed to get done. So
And that's fine.
It is fine. Yeah, I've been redoing the backyard. It looks really cute. Got a whole new patio thing going. What else is new? Oh, I went to a little vintage market today. So there was like a pop-up vintage market downtown. That was really cute.
What'd you buy me?
I didn't get anything, honestly. There was a lot of t-shirts.
You could have bought me a t-shirt.
There was nothing that would. There was like a lot of things we ha-ha'd at. And then we went out and got some food and a drink and came back and I watched Julia play The Last of Us all day.
Cute.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Okay.
All right. That's what I got for you. Anything else? What's new?
We're boring. There's nothing new. My back has been dying every day.
Perfect. Well, I guess you should open the shop with a damn question then.
Can you imagine living a life where everyone else sees you as an icon, but no one sees you as a person?
My life already.
Oh, God.
No. I don't know. I think about that sometimes because, like, I don't think we'll ever, like, be famous, but it would be, like, weird to lose your actual like personality. Yeah, your Wi-Fi. Your actual personality while like everyone else has these like prescribed notions of who you're supposed to be. I don't think would be great.
No. So what do you think happens when somebody knows too much about the wrong people? Is it paranoia, or survival?
Can you rephrase that question?
Yeah, because I said it wrong. Okay, let me just repeat it. What do you think happens when someone knows too much about the wrong people? Do you think it ends up being like paranoia or survival?
For the person who knows too much or the person who has too much known?
Yeah.
I don't think it's survival. I think it's just like we get weirdly obsessed with people who we
So then do you think it
perceive as them as in like positions of power or influence?
Do you think you would get more like paranoid though? Like, you know, all these things maybe you shouldn't? Or do you think it would be like, just we'll put a pin in it?
Like, are you saying if I'm the person who everyone knows things about
No.
or I'm the person who knows things?
Yeah.
I don't think that would make me paranoid. I think it would make me more paranoid if I was like the person that everyone was talking about. Yeah. Why would I get paranoid if I knew too much about somebody else?
Because it's the wrong people that you know about things.
Oh, you're saying like know things that could get me in trouble if I know them sort of deal?
Yeah. Just put a pin in it. Okay. So in our episode about President John F. Kennedy, we explored how power, charisma, and secrets collide to create one of America's greatest legends and one of its darkest mysteries. But there are other figures or another figure that was orbiting that world. And I didn't really touch a lot at all. Actually, I didn't touch at all. And I kind of gave a teaser.
You did.
So a woman whose beauty captivated presidents, whose secrets could shatter Camelot, and whose death remains as contested as his. Tonight, we turn our attention to the wonderful Marilyn Monroe and the tangled web that linked her fate to the Kennedys. So we often remember Marilyn Monroe as an icon, the platinum hair, the red lips, the breathy voice. But before she was a legend, she was Norma Jean, a survivor, a woman whose dreams, disappointments, and extraordinary fame collided with the most powerful family in America. And tonight we kind of go beyond the myths and we honor her life, her resilience, and the questions that remain more than 60 years after she died.
You know, she's one I've never really looked like.
Oh,
I know there's a lot of conspiracy and stuff around her, but I've never looked into it. So a lot of this will be new to me.
Okay, cool. I'm glad. All right. So I kind of broke it into like segments or chapters just to kind of like make it kind of easy. All right. So Norma Jean. So kind of before the spotlight, if you didn't know, she was born Norma Jean Mortensen on June 1st, 1926 in Los Angeles. Her birth certificate listed Edward Mortensen as her father, but her mother, Gladys, later said he was not her biological father.
Oh.
It's widely believed her biological father was Charles Stanley Gifford, Gladys's former colleague, but Norma Jean never met him.
Okay.
Okay.
The controversy starts early.
You have no idea. Basically, there was a lot of instability in her life. So Gladys was declared legally insane in 1934 when Marilyn was 8. Gladys worked at as a film cutter at a film industry, and then that job connected her like indirectly to Hollywood. And she battled paranoid schizophrenia and severe depression. Sometimes she would disappear for days or spiral into delusions that people were trying to kidnap her child. So kidnap Marilyn. Are you good?
Yeah, making faces at you. Sorry.
You look crazy. I wish everyone could see you. All right. So when Marilyn was just 7, Gladys suffered a complete breakdown and was
institutionalized
permanently. So Norma Jean spent her childhood in foster homes and in orphanages. She ended up living in over a dozen foster homes, and for a time at the Los Angeles Orphans Home, she was declared a ward of the state.
As most foster kids are, yeah.
You know a lot about this. She spent a period with family friend Grace McKee Goddard, who was her legal guardian for a portion. So at the time in Los Angeles Orphan Home Society. Holy shit, Kara, get it together.
Carrie is more like it today.
I know. A time at Los Angeles Orphans Home Society, which she remembered with sadness and isolation. This is a quote. "I was never used to being happy, so it wasn't something I ever looked or took for granted."
Damn. I mean, given what we know about her life so far, I can't say I'm surprised, but that still is just awful.
Biographers noted she experienced sexual abuse in foster care. She learned early that survival meant adaptation and making herself likable to adults around her, which in turn, she ended up marrying at 16 to avoid returning to an institution.
Dang, she was married young.
Well, when her guardian, I didn't know this, so I don't think this is a thing now, but when her guardian's husband was transferred out of state, California law prevented taking her along unless she was married, which doesn't make sense to me because if you're her guardian, why does it matter if her husband's leaving the state?
So because she had a guardian, but she was still a ward of the state. So the state basically appoints the guardian to stand in as the parent.
But why did she have to get married to move? That's so weird to me.
I think this is just me guessing.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I love your opinion.
But the laws at that time probably would have said that she would have remained a ward of the state until she was 18 years old or married, because women were still kind of seen as possession back then.
Yeah, that's true.
So once you're married, you kind of belong to the husband.
Okay. So at age 16, she married the neighbor's son, which can you imagine being married at 16?
God, no. I could hardly function as a human at 16.
I know. So James Doherty, she married on June 19th of 1942. She later described it as, quote, like being rescued. She quickly ended up feeling trapped in a domestic life. While her husband served overseas during World War II, Norma Jean worked at Radio Plane Factory, spraying airplane parts with fire radiant. Nope. Retardant. Thank you. Nope. All right.
We don't want the flames to radiate.
No. So determined not to be a housewife forever, she found work to support herself. And this is a quote. "I have too many fantasies to be a housewife. I guess I am a fantasy," she said.
Ooh.
And I love that.
Right. She kind of knew where she was going from day one.
She's the queen of manifestation, let me just tell you. Okay.
All
so
right.
at the factory, she was known as a cheerful, pretty worker nicknamed the Blue-Eyed Girl with Curls. The factory was part of the massive wartime industrial boom, with thousands of women replacing men who were off fighting. And then this is kind of just like a quote that she had like in her younger years. I used to think as I looked out on the Hollywood light, there must be thousands of girls sitting alone like me, dreaming of becoming a movie star. But I'm not going to worry about them. I'm dreaming the hardest.
Oh.
Isn't that so?
I just love how bold. She was always so bold.
Okay, so now this kind of brings us to like her discovery. So in late summer 1944, David Conover, an army photographer working for the U.S. government, visited Radioplane. And his assignment was to shoot morale-boosting photos of female workers for the YANK magazine and like other publications. So supervisor Leon pointed Conover to Norma Jean saying, quote, "You might want a photographer. You might want to photograph this kid. She's got something." And then Conover later wrote, "She was a vivacious young girl with curly hair and wide eyes. She had a quality I had never seen." And when Conover began snapping photos, Norma Jean instantly came alive in front of the camera, smiling, confident, and radiant.
And you can just picture that exact smile in your head.
100%. So those photos were published in military publications, and Norma Jean saw the possibility of a future beyond assembly lines. So she decided to pursue modeling seriously. She straightened her naturally curly hair, dyed it golden blonde. She bought a more sophisticated wardrobe. And then she ended up signing with Blue Book Model Agency, owned by Emmeline Snively, I believe it's how you say it. And she ended up coaching her in posing and public presentation. And she quickly became one of Blue Book's most in-demand models. She appeared in dozens of print ads on magazine covers, and she was soon earning $100 an hour, a significant sum in the 1940s.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
How many hours was she working?
Well, I don't know. Like, what's a photo?
It couldn't have been
shoot?
that
Like,
money. Because that's like
8 hours, 8, 9, 10, 12
that's
hours.
That's insane in today's money.
I mean, photo shoots go really long.
Good for her.
Oh, yeah. All right. So then that brings us kind of to like her first screen test. So her modeling work caught the eye of Ben Lyon, a casting director at 20th Century Fox. And he gave her a screen test in August 1946. And he later said, "It's Jean Harlow all over again. She's got the same naturalness, the same sex appeal, the same body." And Jean Harlow was a really famous actress. I think if you looked her up, you would know her, but she was more of like, I know she was born in like 1911, but I think she was more prominent in the 1920s and 1930s, like late 30s. But if you look her up, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. No, she was like,
yeah,
literally the pre-Madonna. Well,
yeah. Well,
not pre-Madonna,
she's, yeah, we get it.
Who are we talking about?
Marilyn.
Marilyn. I'm thinking prima donna is a totally different phrase. PR. Okay, whatever.
We got it.
She looks like a original Marilyn Monroe.
Yes. So Lyon helped her choose a new name. Marilyn, after Broadway star Marilyn Monroe, her mother's maiden name, which I find wild because she doesn't really have fond memories of her mother. I mean, they're not bad ones, but obviously her mother really struggled. But
yeah,
Marilyn was quoted saying, "Marilyn Monroe, it sounded glamorous. Norma Jean sounded like the girl who never had a room of her own. And that breaks my fucking heart." It breaks it.
It's heartbreaking.
Like, I have tears.
Also just makes me think of what was in the show Reba, the super country girls.
I never really watched
the neighbor
Reba.
name. It was like Barbie Jean or something.
Oh, I don't
Bobby
know.
Jean.
I never. Maybe.
That's all I keep thinking about.
But it makes me so sad that she thought that Norma Jean just basically that reminded her of how awful her life was.
Yeah.
And that's really sad. So she signed her first 6-month contract with Fox in August 1946. She was just 20 years old, which is wild.
Hey, good for her.
And again, like I kind of already said, I would say that she was the queen of manifesting. So it's easy for us to say Marilyn Monroe was discovered, but she discovered herself. She walked into a factory every day during a World War, hoping for something better. And when a photographer aimed his lens, she saw a door opening and she stepped right through it. Marilyn said, "When the photographer said smile, I did it. I knew it was my way out. But behind the pinup smiles was a woman fighting lifelong insecurity, depression, and a fear of abandonment. And that would haunt her relationships forever.
Yeah, there's kind of a lot to unpack there in her past.
Mm-hmm. So this kind of brings us to like her rise of fame. So in 1946, she signed with Century Fox.
Right.
And she changed her name officially to Marilyn Monroe. Small films parts in her in the late 40s, and she was frequently typecast into that role. We all know it. Her breakthrough was in 1950. Roles in The Asphalt Jungle and All About Eve earned critical notice. And in 1953, she became a global star with Nigeria, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and How to Marry a Millionaire. The infamous skirt-blowing scene from The 7-Year Itch, that was in 1955. And that cemented her sex symbol status.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is just a image that is burned into pop culture.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, to the world, Marilyn Monroe was the ultimate fantasy. An icon of beauty and desire, but behind the camera flashes and the box office records was a woman who never stopped reaching for something more. While Hollywood saw a blonde bombshell, Marilyn was quietly determined to prove she had a mind every bit as remarkable as her image. And it was in her private moments, alone with her books and her thoughts, that she tried to find the respect she was so often denied.
You have to praise her for her resiliency. I mean, for all that she went through in the past to just like, wow.
So this kind of brings me to like her intellectual pursuits. So despite her image, she was an avid reader and she owned over 400 books in her own library. And you'd find subjects that ranged from classic literature, psychology, philosophy, poetry, politics, and religion. Photographer George Barris recalled, people would be shocked at what she read. She always carried books with her. She never wanted to stop learning. And that is not what we talk about when we talk about
No,
Marilyn
not
Monroe.
at all.
No.
Which is amazing. I mean, it's amazing. Not amazing that we don't talk about it. It's amazing that she was a smart little cookie.
I know. So in 1955, she enrolled at the Actors Studio in New York to study method acting under Lee Strasberg. And this was the most respected method acting working in America at the time. And she was determined to grow beyond that typecasting. She really took this seriously. Lee Strasberg said she had an enormous talent, an instinct for truth, a deep need to understand human nature. Okay. So she also studied at Stanislavski's techniques, which focused on creating believable and emotionally authentic performances through psychological realism. She took private lessons on voice projection, movement, and emotional memory. And even as she was mocked by the press for slumming it with intellectuals, she never gave up. I want to be an artist, an actress with integrity, not just a fake image that everyone can laugh at. She even had private writings. So Marilyn kept journals full of reflections, poetry, and observations. And one of her quick little blurbs from one of her poems is, "Life, I am of both your directions, somehow remaining hanging downward the most, but strong as a cobweb in the wind. I exist more with the cold, glistening frost, but my beaded rays have the colors I've seen in a painting. Ah, life, they have cheated you."
Dang. I
know.
My brain sticks on the strong like a cobweb in wind because it is strong, but it's so delicate at the same time. Ooh. Hey, Kara, have you ever wanted to take your spiritual practice to the next level?
Oh, absolutely. And if you're looking for something that feels truly magical and not mass produced, you have to check out My Mystical Forest.
My Mystical Forest is like stepping into your own enchanted sanctuary. They offer handmade spiritual tools crafted with care, intention, and so much heart.
We're talking tarot card holders that make your readings feel elevated, pendulum boards that bring clarity, and spirit boards to deepen your connection.
And don't forget the incense burners to set the perfect vibe, plus crystal trays to arrange and organize all your favorite stones. Everything is a labor of love made from hand-selected hardwoods.
Whether you're a seasoned spiritual practitioner or just starting your journey, My Mystical Forest has the tools to empower and inspire.
Unlock the magic for yourself and seek harmony. Visit mymysticalforest.etsy.com. That's M-I Mystical Forest, and find the heirloom quality pieces that speak to your soul.
Also, for our little oddballs, for a limited time, enter code ODDBALL at checkout to receive 10% off plus a free pendulum, or simply use the link down in the show notes.
Goodbye.
Okay, so in 1955, sorry, y'all, I know I'm talking fast, but there's a lot to get through. Okay, so in 1955, she founded her own production company, which was almost unheard of as a woman at the time. And her goal was to negotiate better contracts, pick more serious roles, and prove that she was not just a studio puppet. This move inspired later generations of actresses to take control of their careers. So Arthur Miller, which was a Pulitzer-winning playwright, was quoted saying, "She was much smarter than people gave her credit for. She could grasp ideas quickly, ask the right questions, and challenge you. She had a poetic soul and a sharp mind." But if we remember, she was married, and James did not approve of her modeling ambitions. So in 1946, she chose her career that she was really working hard for over the marriage.
Good for her.
And so she filed for divorce, citing mental cruelty, but really it was her refusal to stay in a domestic role. And James later said, "She wanted something I couldn't give her. She wanted to be famous." And Marilyn rarely spoke of him in later years, calling it a teenage marriage to a nice boy, but that was really it.
I mean, from the ages that she was with him, if you think about, like, I feel like we had relationships at those times, and we're only in our 30s now, and we don't talk about them, so.
Right. But I just mean because she's a public figure. So, so many people are talking about, what about your marriage? Your marriage failed. Right. Oh my God, tell me about your marriage. Come on. So she was very smart in the way that she said it was a teenage marriage. And that was it.
Fair.
Get out of my face, biatches.
Fair enough.
All right. So this kind of brings us to her marriages. So Joe DiMaggio, I feel like that's like one of her most, in my eyes, like famous marriage.
Oh, yeah.
So she was married from January 14th, 1954, and they were divorced on October 27th of 1954. So
iconic, but short.
He was a baseball legend and American hero. And at the time of their marriage, Joe had recently retired as one of the greatest players of all time. And they met in 1952 because Joe asked a friend in Hollywood to arrange a date. Despite being opposites, they were quickly inseparable. And he was very much captivated by her innocence and vulnerability. And she was drawn to his strengths and desire to protect her. Their wedding in San Francisco drew a massive press attention. I can only imagine, like a baseball legend and Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, yeah.
But kind of here's where another marriage seems to crumble. He wanted her to quit acting and modeling. He was deeply uncomfortable with the fame and her sex symbol status. Their most famous fight came after the filming of The 7-Year Itch, that skirt blowing scene that we talked about. And hundreds of men cheered as her dress flew up in the front of the cameras. And Joe was...
That's what we call fragile masculinity.
Yeah, he was furious and humiliated. And just 270 days after marrying, Marilyn filed for divorce, again citing mental cruelty. And she wept in court as she explained that she couldn't live under his control. And she was quoted saying, "I loved Joe, but he wanted me to be something that I couldn't be." But despite the divorce, Joe remained devoted to Marilyn. He helped her through all of her hospitalizations and her sicknesses, and he actually arranged her funeral, and he sent roses to her crypt every week for 20 effing years. And I'm sorry, but if that's not just like at least a really great friendship, I don't know what is.
I mean, if I ever have even close to that effect on a man, I will call it a win.
Exactly. And then this brings us to Arthur Miller, who she married June 29th, 1956, and they were divorced January 24th, 1961. And like I said earlier, he was a prize-winning playwright, author of Death of a Salesman and The Crucible.
Which are both plays we had to read in like
I don't know
middle
if I
school, and I
did
find
read them.
they were both horribly boring.
Oh, well, he was known for his intellectualism and his moral seriousness, so that's probably why he's boring.
They were definitely very serious.
Yeah, they met in 1951 kind of briefly, and they reconnected years later through friends. They began exchanging letters, which I find so cute. So Marilyn later said that she fell in love with his mind. She yearned for respectability and intellectual connection, and he admired her sensitivity. So Marilyn converted to Judaism before the wedding for him, and she took her craft of acting more seriously at the time. So she was moving to New York and studying with Lee Strasberg, like I said. Here's kind of where like the struggles with Marilyn kind of happen. So she really, really battled with anxiety and her addiction worsened. And Arthur wrote in his journal that he was sometimes disappointed and overwhelmed. And she actually discovered this note and that he had confessed and that he was embarrassed by her behavior. And this like just broke her heart.
Oh,
She was just like distraught that he felt that he was like overwhelmed and disappointed in her.
that'd be hard to read though about yourself. I mean,
I
it should be
know.
a wake up call, maybe a little
Especially
bit.
though, well, no, because if you're suffering with anxiety, though, you can't help that. And for somebody
That's
that's
true.
been struggling so many years for just
I thought it was more the
loneliness-
addiction than the
No.
anxiety. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just like all of it. But can you imagine like the person that you feel is so intellectual and that your mind really connected with is a disappointment or you're a disappointment to? I
Yeah.
can't imagine.
That would be so hard.
So in this marriage, she suffered multiple miscarriages, which is just so heartbreaking in itself. They ended up filing for divorce in Mexico in 1961. The relationship ended with deep sadness on both sides. And Arthur had said she was a poet on a street corner trying to recite to a crowd pulling at her clothes. And that fucking pisses me off.
Damn.
Because she married 3 men, each offering something she thought that she needed. With James, it was she searched for security, Joe for protection, and then Arthur, like she hoped for like respect and intellect. But at the end, no husband could actually fill the emptiness that she carried from childhood. And like the feeling that love was always just like out of reach. Like her marriages, I don't think they were failures. They were reflections of her longing for like that protection, understanding, respect.
I think there's also just something to say with people who have that big of a personality. It's so hard to find a partner, especially in the
in your strong
sexism
female.
of the time. Yeah,
Yep.
right.
It's
strong
even now.
female.
What are you talking about?
I mean, let's be honest. We're back in the 50s. But no, it would be so difficult to find somebody who gives you what you need emotionally and also supports your career.
That quote pissed me off so much when I was doing this research, but
That's a big quote.
that's a fucked up quote. I have goosebumps. But Marilyn once said, "I knew I belonged to the public and to the world, not because I was talented or beautiful, but because I had never belonged to anything or anyone else." And that is so... All right, so let's kind of move into the health struggles that she did have.
Real quick before you do
Yeah.
that is so...
I know, but I'm going to start crying.
No,
so
humanizing.
I know.
Because, I mean, you take icons like Marilyn Monroe and other people like that, and you put them on pedestals and like, oh, their life must have been so grand. Those are just such normal struggle, not normal struggle. I don't want to like normalize their struggle, but it's something that so many people deal with that you just assume celebrity doesn't.
So this is why I've always really loved Marilyn Monroe. And like, you know how everyone, well, I don't know, but like when I was like younger, like high school in my early 20s, like all the girls would get like a Marilyn Monroe tattoo or have like Marilyn Monroe shirts or posters.
Or get the Marilyn Monroe piercing.
I mean, I have that naturally. So, but the Monroe piercing, yeah. But I never really liked that because I feel like they were memorializing her for the wrong reasons and they didn't actually know about her. And
for the sex icon.
I read a book about her when I was probably 19.
Okay.
And I have been in, and it was about her. Well, we'll get into it, but it was about her suicide / fucking murder. And I've never gotten over it because I'm like, I don't know what it was. I just have always known that there's something about Marilyn that people didn't know, even before I researched her, looked into her, and read this book. And I've always been fascinated for that reason. And that is also why I will never just like display Marilyn everywhere, because I don't want people to think it's because I think she's beautiful and a sex symbol. I think she's gorgeous. Don't get me wrong. That's not why I love her.
But there's so much more to it, to her.
Yes. And that's why I really want to do this episode. Okay, but let's get into her health struggles because she did have quite a few. So she had endometriosis, which I know a lot of people know, but basically it's a painful disorder where tissue similar to the oh my God.
Uterine lining.
Thank you. Uterine lining grows outside the uterus. And this causes severe pelvic pain, heavy menstrual bleeding, and difficulty conceiving, which is why she had so many miscarriages. And this basically affected her, obviously, tremendously. She had chronic pain, and it also often left her bedridden. And Arthur said, he was quoted saying, she wanted a child more than anything. Each time she lost one, it took something out of her that she never got back. She also had chronic insomnia, and she suffered a lifelong insomnia dating back to her childhood, which makes sense because she went through a lot. So as a little girl, she was afraid to fall asleep in foster homes, and the anxiety carried into adulthood, and she often laid awake for hours. And she basically had extreme exhaustion on film sets. And basically, this made her rely on barbiturates and sedatives to sleep.
There we go.
And sometimes she mixed sleeping pills with alcohol, which worsened her depression. And she was quoted saying, I have too many dreams to sleep, which is, we don't even have to break that down. We just don't have it. Just.
Yeah, we can figure out what that means.
So alongside her physical pain, Marilyn battled severe anxiety and depression. The pressure of fame and her fear of abandonment and the relentless scrutiny of her public, it all fed into the cycle of insomnia, panic attacks, and deep sadness that she could never fully escape. So I can't imagine having anxiety, depression, insomnia, and endometriosis, and also have all of these idiots that you married because you thought they were going to help you through basically all of this, and they just didn't.
That's a lot going on.
This is when we get into the romance with the Kennedys.
Let's go.
All right. So how they met, Marilyn was already like at the height of her fame in the 1950s. And she moved in an elite Hollywood circles, and she often was invited to parties at Peter Lawford's beach house in Santa Monica. Peter Lawford was a British-born actor and a member of the Rat Pack. And he married Patricia Kennedy, JFK's sister, in 1954, which cemented his place in Kennedy social circles. Frank Sinatra was also a mutual friend of both Marilyn and the Kennedys, and Sinatra introduced her to exclusive gatherings where she met politicians and all these, high-end people. So there were often informal get-togethers combining entertainment and political fundraising. So according to biographer Donald Spoto, Peter Lawford told friends, Marilyn, this is a quote, Marilyn was treated like the ultimate trophy guest. Everybody wanted to be near her. So how it kind of started was, it's like nobody really agrees on the exact date, but most historians say Marilyn first met JFK at Lawford's Malibu home.
Okay.
And she later described him, and this was a quote, as charming.
Was he president at the time?
No, I don't believe when she met him.
Okay.
But I do have dates in a second. But she did describe him as charming, witty, and so handsome it was almost embarrassing. And like so many, Marilyn was drawn to JFK's charm and charisma, but unlike the others, she believed their affair was something deeper, a connection that might finally make her feel wanted. And if you didn't listen to like 2 weeks ago, we did a deep dive on JFK and the Kennedys and how awful they are. 3 weeks ago.
There we go.
Couple episodes ago, y'all.
Just scroll back a little bit. It's fine.
JFK and the affair. So again, the most credible sources place the beginning of the affair in like the late 1961s or early 62. It's not really known. Oh, I guess I did lie to you because then he was in his first years of presidency. But again, I don't know if they met. I think they might have like met before.
Like kind of been in the same circles.
Yeah, but their affair started in his first year. So their contact was mainly at private events or private visits, I should say, at Lawford's house, so that beach house, or when JFK came to California. Friends recalled that Marilyn was captivated by his charisma. Hello. And she confided in her close friend, Jeannie Carmen, that she thought it was more than a affair. She believed that he might actually leave Jacqueline Kennedy.
Oh.
So historian Robert Delick and author J. Randy Taraboroli, I believe it is, they both note that there is no evidence, though, that JFK ever intended anything serious. And to that, I say you can go F yourself, because of course not, because he was a playboy addicted to all of the drugs.
And the women.
Right. So there was nothing serious in his brain. But that doesn't mean he didn't tell her that it was serious.
Oh, yeah.
So just because you historians cannot prove that, you can go F yourself. Sorry. All right. So here are some accounts of like the staff.
And this is totally unbiased.
So accounts from the staff, the White House aide, Kenneth O'Donnell, later insisted in a quote, "It was just a fling. Jack had lots of flings." We already know that.
That we do know.
Marilyn was reported frequently calling the White House, which alarmed Kennedy aides, which I get. According to Anthony Summers' Goddess, Bobby Kennedy asked Lawford to persuade her to stop calling. We know that Lawford is married to one of the Kennedys and they're good friends. So he was kind of like, yo. So Robert Kennedy was like, you need to like do something about your friend.
Yeah.
So JFK's circle kind of felt that Marilyn was becoming too emotionally attached. And the affair likely fizzled out in the early spring of 1962. But again, we don't actually know.
So we know how his circle felt. Do we know how he felt about it?
I don't know if he fucking had feelings.
I mean, we can assume, but
I don't know if he had any actual feelings because the Dr. Feelgood was pumping him to not feel.
He probably didn't have, or if he had feelings, they might not have been true.
Right. Okay. So just like as a reminder, while JFK was the charmer, RFK was often the enforcer, the one who stepped in to clean up his brother's messes, or in Marilyn's case, to make sure the past stayed buried. And that brings us to Robert Kennedy. So if you didn't know, after JFK cooled down the relationship, Marilyn saw Robert Kennedy more frequently, and
that part I did know.
So he was attorney general and he often was in California on official business. Now, some sources suggest an affair was with RFK and that began in the mid 1962, though others believe that they were mainly just friendly contracts. And I don't know. I don't have an opinion either way on that. But Anthony Summers' Goddess includes in an interview claiming RFK visited her Brentwood home several times. However, many historians are cautious about these claims. There are no photos, letters, or confirmed records proving an affair with Robert, which, whatever, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. So what's kind of generally agreed...
No, it just means somebody was tight-lipped for once.
Right. So what was generally agreed is that Bobby Kennedy, or Robert Kennedy, was sent to smooth things over with Marilyn and discourage further calls to JFK, which that 100 makes sense because we already know that he was JFK's muscle, if you will.
Cleanup crew.
So that interaction may have fueled her belief that she was being shut out. And this kind of brings us, though, to the birthday gala, as you were so not greatly singing to us earlier.
I sounded just like her.
This event was on May 19th.
Don't skirt over that.
1962.
Tell me I did good.
No. It was at Madison Square Garden in New York. And the occasion was for a massive Democratic fundraiser. And it was an early birthday celebration for JFK. His birthday was on May 29th. And the audience was about 15,000 people, including celebrities, journalists, and political power brokers. The dress, okay? Marilyn wore a custom-made Jean Louis gown with 2,500 hand-sewn rhinestones.
Is this the one that...
It was so sheer that she reportedly was sewn into it. And under the bright stage lights, it almost looked nude. We all know this dress, okay? She walked onto the stage, draped in a white fur coat, slowly peeled it off and revealed the dress, prompting gasps from the audience. And she sang,
"Oh, that was racy.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Thanks, Mr. President, for all the things that you've done, the battles that you've won." This moment was so provocative, it made headlines worldwide. And after she finished, JFK stepped up to the mic and joked, "I can now retire from politics after having had happy birthday sang to me in such a sweet, wholesome way.
Oh, Jackie had to be just losing her shit behind the scenes.
Jackie Kennedy refused to go to the gala, and she stayed in Virginia. And that performance actually became one of the most famous moments in Marilyn's life, and one that she would never, ever escape. The aftermath of the gala was basically that Kennedy's aides became very alarmed by the spectacle and the media attention. And Peter Lawford and Bobby Kennedy, that's kind of when they really were like, okay, we need to make major efforts to distance her from JFK and any association like with them two together. That's when her phone calls started going unanswered. And her friends included Jeannie and Ralph Roberts said that she felt embarrassed and humiliated and that she had exposed herself publicly and still ended up alone. And according to Carmen, Marilyn said, maybe I shouldn't have sung to him like that. Maybe it was too much. And this is kind of when her isolation, whether it was real or in her head, you decide, kind of started. So by the summer of 1962, Marilyn was in the most vulnerable state of her life.
I think the isolation, whether it's real or in your head, like they become self-feeding machines.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So if it's in your head,
Correct.
yeah, it's going to become real. If you start to feel like you're being isolated, you're probably going to isolate yourself. I am not victim blaming in that.
No, I know.
Just say those two systems feed each other.
Absolutely. So basically in 1962, this is when she became the most vulnerable in her life. So she was recently actually fired from Something's Gotta Give. She's reeling from professional rejection. She's heartbroken by the end of her Kennedy connections. She was actually fired from the set of Something's Gotta Give because she missed too many days of filming. So 17 out of 30 due to her serious illness with the sinus infections, bronchitis, and her chronic pain with her endometriosis. At the same time, 20th Century Fox was nearly bankrupt because of Cleopatra. So they blamed her for delays and used her absence as an excuse to cut cords.
Oh, yeah. Why not blame somebody else?
So things got even worse after she left to sing the Happy Birthday to Mr. President, which made headlines and embarrassed the studio. And on June 8th, 1962, Fox fired her for breach of contract and sued her. What I will say, though, is that, and I can't believe I didn't put this in my notes, one of the directors, though, said that he would refuse to continue on with Fox if they didn't rehire Marilyn, and they actually did end up rehiring her.
Of course.
Okay, so remember how she was always reading and writing?
Mm-hmm.
This kind of brings us to her diary. And if you don't know a lot about Marilyn in the back story, which you might not know this, there is the Red Diary. Okay.
See, this is all stuff I don't know anything about.
This is a very prominent thing that people will dispute if it was a suicide, overdose, a drug overdose, a murder, whatever. This Red Diary existed or didn't exist. This is a big dispute. Okay. So she had a small red leather notebook and she supposedly kept it near her bed. According to accounts, she filled it with notes about her phone calls and private conversations, details of her relationships with JFK and RFK, observations she overheard at gatherings, including political gossip and possibly sensitive government topics. Okay, so she's a smart-ass woman, very smart. Why the hell wouldn't she have a diary? And why the hell would she have not done all these things? We can just stop at that point. But these are the people that claimed it existed. Eunice Murray, her housekeeper, in later interviews, she said Marilyn often wrote in her little red book, especially after phone calls. But she never produced the diary herself. Like she could never show it to anybody.
Okay.
Fred Otash was a private detective, a notorious Hollywood fixer who wiretapped celebrities, and he claimed he had bugged Marilyn's phone for Howard Hughes and studio bosses. Otash told author Anthony Summers he believed the diary contained material that could bring down the government. That was a quote. Bring down the government?
Yikes.
However, there was no recording or physical evidence that he ever surfaced. Lionel Grandinson, he was a coroner's office clerk, and he claimed he personally handled the diary after the death And he was pursued. He was pressured to remove references of the Kennedys.
Oh, that's so shocking.
His credibility was often like widely disputed as he made conflicting statements over the years. But I'm sorry, if you are pressured to remove things from the Kennedys, you're also probably pressured to like take back things that you've said.
Yeah.
Anthony Summers, so in his book in 1985, it included extensive interviews suggesting the diary was real. He concluded that there was reason to suspect it contained politically explosive entries, but also noted no one has ever produced it. People loved to call her a dumb blonde, never realizing she was carefully playing the part and quietly recording everything in her diary. Behind that innocent smile was a woman who saw more, remembered more, and understood more than anyone ever guessed. And a quote from Marilyn herself, "I can be smart when it's important, but most men don't like it." And this kind of brings us to why she could have been paranoid, because this topic is FBI and surveillance.
Oh, God.
So FBI files, they recently declassified files and they confirm Marilyn was under FBI surveillance due to her friendships with the leftist activists. Her ex-husband, Arthur Miller, who was suspected of communist sympathies, and multiple references to phone taps and reports about her association with the Kennedy family. So J. Edgar Hoover's interest. So the FBI director was intensely interested in gathering dirt on the Kennedys. And so, Marilyn's connection to both brothers became part of that broader effort. So,
and I wonder why the FBI wanted to blow up the Kennedys. Oh, maybe because he blamed them for everything?
Right. So this is actually a quote from an FBI memo. Subject has become a security concern because of her personal ties to prominent political figures. It wasn't just in her head. While she grew more paranoid, the FBI was really watching, tracking her calls, her friendships, and every rumor that tied her to the Kennedys. Which brings us to her paranoia in her final weeks. Basically, her behavior. So in July 1962, Marilyn told her psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Greenson, that she believed her phones were being tapped, cars were parked near her home to watch her, and she was being followed when she left her house. And according to her friend accounts, Jeannie Carmen described Marilyn pacing the floor, worried about the, quote, the men who were listening. And Ralph Roberts recalled she thought her housekeeper was reporting on her to Bobby Kennedy. So biographers agree that she was highly anxious, though it's not clear whether her fears were justified or a combination of stress and medication. And this kind of brings us to what I was talking about, where it's like, the red diary is just like a big thing. So this is the disappearance of her diary is like the biggest thing. So after her death, Eunice Murray, which was her housekeeper, and Dr. Greenson were reportedly the first to access Marilyn's bedroom. And Murray claimed that she saw the diary and later couldn't find it. The LAPD inventory of her possessions did not list the diary. Why wouldn't it?
Right.
So conspiracy theorists argue...
surprising.
Yeah, argue it was removed to protect the Kennedys. The official position is that the Los Angeles County District Attorney's 1982 review concluded there were no credible evidence the diary existed or contained state secrets. I agree. Not even a goddamn bit.
No, it makes no sense because back then, too, you don't have anything but a diary to write your stuff down in.
Right. And she was a writer, a poet. She was intellectual. She observed and she wanted to take note and better her practice and be around these intellectuals.
Yeah, it definitely existed.
Why the F would she not have this? All right. Now I'm going to go. I know we're already a lot in, but I'm going to go through the night that she died because I don't know. You're somebody that probably doesn't know all this, and I don't know if a lot of people know.
I don't know a ton of details.
All right. So August 4th, 1962, the last day. So this is, I kind of put it in chronological order. So the morning and the early afternoon. So Marilyn woke up at her Brentwood home, which is 12305 5th Helena Drive, around 8 a.m. And her housekeeper, Eunice was there and she was cleaning and doing laundry. Marilyn had scheduled appointments that day. She had a massage with Ralph Roberts and a therapy session by phone with Dr. Ralph Greenson, her psychiatrist. She spent part of the day reading and reportedly arranging plans for the upcoming week. So around noon to 4 p.m., Marilyn received a delivery of furniture because she was redoing her home. She also made calls to her lawyer, Milton Rudin, about her contract negotiations with Fox, because remember, they were going to rehire her. Okay, so she spoke to her photographer, Lawrence Schiller, planning publicity photos. And according to several sources, she was in good spirits, discussing going back to work. So she was very excited about this. So she was just happy. Okay. Late afternoon, 4 to 5, Dr. Greenson actually arrived for an in-person therapy session. And they were reported spending about 90 minutes talking. And he said she was anxious, but not suicidal.
That's kind of a big tell.
Well, no, because he was asked after. You had 2 sessions with her that day. And he's like, he has multiple sessions with her all the time. It wasn't unusual for him to have multiple sessions with her. So one earlier in the day on the phone and then an in-person. So it's kind of like once he was asked, like, he's like, no, she was not suicidal. She was her normal anxiety self. But after that session, though, he did ask Eunice to spend the night, which was unusual. And he later claimed he thought she seemed vulnerable. So I don't know. So in the early evening, she had her calls. So 6 to 7 p.m., Marilyn called Joe DiMaggio Jr., her ex-stepson, to congratulate him on his engagement. And Joe Jr. later said that she sounded happy, like she was looking forward to the future. And I just think it was just amazing that she very much kept in touch with him. Like she wanted to remain in his life, which I found great. 7:30 to 8 p.m., she phoned Peter Lawford, who remember is the actor and JFK's brother-in-law. Mm-hmm. And he described her voice at this time as slurred, drowsy, and barely audible. And she said something to him along the lines of, say goodbye to the president and say goodbye to yourself because you're a nice guy. Lawford was alarmed and tried to call back repeatedly, but got no answer.
That's weird.
We can touch back on that. I don't know.
It almost sounds manic.
I take it a different way because I think most people take it as manic or that she had overdosed and she was going through that part.
Yeah.
I take it as she is taking a stance where she's like, you guys are shutting me out. Bye. Like, I'm done with this. I'm done trying. You're a great friend or whatever. Like, you're a good person, but goodbye. That's how I take it. But I think most people twist it and take it a different way. Mm-hmm. All right. So later that night, between 8 and 10 p.m., Eunice claimed that she saw Marilyn going to her bedroom. She left the light on. At some point, Marilyn took her sedative to sleep. And it's believed that she also took a barbiturate capsule, either intentionally or accidentally. Okay. So between 10 p.m. and midnight, Eunice said that she noticed the light was still on under the door. She knocked but got no response. And she later told the press that she felt uneasy but did nothing immediately. And this is one of like the main inconsistencies. So in some statements, Eunice says that she waited until after 3 a.m. In others, she implied that she called Dr. Greenson earlier, which I also just don't know why you'd call him. But anyway.
Right.
So this is like we get to the discovery of her body. So between 3 and 3:30 a.m., Dr. Greenson was called to the house because, again, Eunice claimed that she phoned him. He arrived and knocked on Marilyn's locked bedroom door. Seeing no response, he broke. I don't know how her house was set up. I forgot to look, but I'm pretty sure it was like still a glass window because he was able to break a window to open the door. So I think the way that they got it, I think she had a room that went outside into her like garden or whatever. And I think that's how they ended up breaking into her.
That would make sense.
The outside door.
Yeah.
I forgot to relook into that, but I'm pretty sure.
A lot of those California style houses, though, will either have like a courtyard or some sort of like side garden or
Okay. Marilyn was found nude, lying face down across the bed, phone in hand. Her nightstand had empty pill bottles, and Greenson tried to rouse her. And then he called her physician, Dr. Hyman Engelberg. And at 3:50 a.m., Dr. Engelberg arrived and pronounced her dead. 4:25 a.m., the LAPD was called. So her official cause of death was that the LA County Coroner's report said that the primary cause was acute barbiturate poisoning. And basically it gives all her blood levels and whatever. But we don't care about that because I don't know if that's true. And there was no evidence of foul play. There's no bruises consistent with like restraint or injection. Remember that. All right. So Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Thomas ruled it probable suicide. But here's where we get to the discrepancies and conspiracies. So number one, rigor mortis timing. First responders noted advanced rigor mortis, suggesting she died closer to midnight, but official statements said that she was alive at 3 a.m., which I don't know who said she was alive at 3 a.m. because apparently that's when they broke in and found her dead.
Right.
Between 3 and 3:30. Okay. Eunice's ever-changing story. So she initially said that she waited till 3 a.m. to call Greenson. But in later interviews, she claimed that she called him much earlier. And in Anthony Summers' interview, she admitted, I was told to say certain things.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, there's a breeding ground for conspiracy right there.
So the phone in her hand, she was clenched, like the phone was clenched in her hand. So some said that she was clutching the phone, and others claimed that it was like placed there to stage a suicide because it just looked not like you just wouldn't die clenching it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. The missing diary. So the red diary was never cataloged in like police inventories, but some insist it was removed before officers arrived.
Okay.
So some people think that, I don't know who did it, the doctor, Eunice, the Kennedys, somebody was called, removed that before LAPD even got there.
Not surprising.
And then there was the delayed in the police call. Because if you remember, they were not called until 4:25, 4:50, something like that. So it was basically a question like, why was the LAPD, like, why weren't they called immediately?
What were they doing in the meantime? Yeah.
Right. And also, why was her psychiatrist called before her actual doctor?
Yeah.
So the psychiatrist was
They're
called.
trying to figure out what's going on with the medication.
This is kind of how it looked when the police entered the room. Basically, like I said, Marilyn lay diagonally across the bed. The phone cord was stretched across her body. The lamp was on. And then the bottles of her I can't even say that word. All her fucking drugs were just beside her bed, apparently empty. So the scene has since been like scrutinized in countless books and documentaries, fueling endless speculation because it just looked fucking staged. I just don't know if that's how you would die. So before you kind of knew all this part, what did you think of like her death? Like, when you heard Marilyn Monroe died, what did you ever think?
I'm going to be really honest. It's one of those things I really just never looked into. I knew there was like weirdness around it, but I've never known any of the details. Okay.
So here's the crazy part. No pills in her stomach.
What?
So despite a fatal dose of all of these drugs, apparently, the autopsy found no trace of capsules or pill residue in her stomach. And toxicologist Dr. Raymond Abernathy, I believe, testified it was unusual in the extreme. And this basically later suggests that they were either injected or administered via enema, which would have been impossible for her to do alone in her groggy state, is what they say. But also, why would she do that to herself? And if you remember, there was no abuse, no bruises, and no injection wounds, is what they said earlier. So how is that possible? So then there were 3 witness statements. So Norman Jeffries, which was Murray's son-in-law, he was present at the house that night, apparently. And he claimed that Robert Kennedy arrived with 2 men and alleged an argument and that Marilyn was hysterical. Okay. There was also neighbors. Multiple neighbors reported seeing police cars and an ambulance parked outside earlier in the night.
Yikes.
So before the official timelines claim. And some heard shouting. So Peter Lawford admitted that Marilyn called him sounding drugged and slurring. We know that. And that was around, I think, like 8 p.m. saying like, say goodbye to the president, blah, 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 all that stuff. And he claimed that he tried to keep calling, but it was blocked. Okay. apparently Robert Kennedy visited, like we said, and several witnesses, including Lionel Grandinson, which was the coroner office clerk, said that RFK was in LA that day. So he knew that. And retired LAPD officer Lynn Franklin claimed RFK was flown to Marilyn's house in a helicopter to confront her about the calls to the White House. And some authors, like Anthony Summers, believe that this was the point where the situation escalated.
And we already know from the JFK episode that there was a history of women disappearing.
Mm-hmm. And so Anthony Summers wrote, the only way to explain all the lies and contradictions is that important men were involved and there was something to hide. And we also know that like FBI files confirm that Marilyn was under surveillance because of her association with Arthur Miller, and she was monitored due to her connections with the Kennedys. And private detective Fred, he claimed to have bugged her house and recorded calls to the White House, discussions about politics, arguments with RFK, but those tapes have never been found.
Of course. Why would they?
Mm-hmm. But multiple credible witnesses say that they actually do exist. And then there's like the cleanup allegations. So retired ambulance driver James Hall claimed he was dispatched hours earlier and Marilyn was still alive, which if you go back to that claim where it was like, well, she was alive at 3 a.m., but then it changed. Okay. So a doctor gave her an injection to revive her. So he's an ambulance driver saying he was called. A doctor gave her an injection. And when that failed, they were told to leave quietly.
Do we think that this injection was to revive her?
I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So then there's other rumors, like I said, kind of like the room was staged to look like a suicide and that the diary disappeared before the police even arrived. I don't know. There's a lot of perspectives that say like it was foul play. And I think we can all agree listening to all this crap. And Anthony Summers.
There's definitely some room to debate that.
Yeah. So.
And argue that side. Because I'm on that side.
Yeah. So he said the cumulative weight of discrepancies makes it clear that there was a cover-up. Whether that cover-up was to conceal incompetence or murder is the question. So here's the other thing that I just kind of want to like give a second to. It makes sense. Like, so she's doing all her calls. She's calling all these blah, blah, blah. She's just doing her normal day. RFK shows up, people witness seeing him in the house with two men, stop calling, stop doing this, whatever, right? So she's already in this state of she's being shut out. She's depressed. She has anxiety. She's already met with her psychiatrist twice that day. Like she is going through it, right? So I don't think that she took any of those sedatives and all of those drugs because it wasn't found in her stomach. Okay. We just have a statement saying that the ambulance driver came earlier and a doctor gave her an injection to revive her. That was not no fucking injection to revive her. Here's the crazy part though. What I think happened, I think there was an altercation. I think that they called the ambulance because they were trying to admit her. I think that's what they were trying to do, right? That didn't happen. They give her an injection, but I think she still went into her room. And I believe whether it was staged or not, I don't know. But the door was locked because it had to break in. So I guess they could have staged it all, locked the door and went outside and she be locked in, or she was hiding. I don't know, but her crime scene looks very staged. But either way, let's just say that all happened. She runs into her bedroom. She gets the cord, whatever. It could be strewn across her. She tries to make a phone call. I don't know. But I don't think that she killed herself. I don't think that she accidentally or purposely overdosed. It does not make sense to me. I have never thought that.
I'm almost wondering. Here's my thoughts on it, right? And this is just from the info you presented because I haven't looked into it as much as you have. But like, I wonder if it was just bad timing all around. I wonder if RFK was showing up to get her to be silent.
Could be.
She was already kind of crashing out.
Sure.
Because we know she was starting to make these calls.
And she was.
And I wonder if, I don't think they went there with the intent to kill her, but I think possibly because the state she was already in and then being confronted with it, it was like a horrible, horrible accident.
I don't think they went to kill her. Let me just put that out there. I don't think it, like you said.
Because that would be overstepping even for the Kennedys.
What I will say, though, is that those calls were they weren't abnormal.
Right.
That was like a Marilyn thing. She was always checking out on the people that she loved. So I don't take that as a manic thing. Like you're just calling through your rotary dial. I don't think it was that. That was kind of like...
No, but like you're not going to be present anymore, those kind of things. Like I wonder if she was already like just really going through it, you know, and then you have him show up and it just exacerbated a situation.
Yeah, but I don't think it was a suicide, accidental or intentional.
Oh, yeah. No. I also don't know if it was an intentional murder, though. Like, I don't think they set out there with the fact.
I don't think they set out to do it, but they did it. So it's intentional when you got there.
Right.
It's a murder.
We're on the same page there.
All right. So put together the contradictions from a picture and like form a picture more sinister than a lonely overdose. Like we just said. A missing diary, a timeline that never made sense, witnesses who were silenced or discredited, and a woman who believed in her last days that powerful men were watching her every move. Maybe she was paranoid, or maybe she was right. What's clear, Marilyn felt abandoned by those that she loved. Whatever happened that night, it was shaped by her vulnerability, her isolation, and the crushing weight of fame. And then the aftermath of her death, it's so sad, but her funeral was arranged by Joe DiMaggio, who always looked out for her.
Which is really sweet.
I know. He barred Hollywood studios heads, the Kennedys, and many of their former colleagues. And for 20 years, like I had said before, he sent roses to her crypt. And she became the first woman on the cover of Playboy. Andy Warhol's pop art, he immortalized her. Feminist scholars re-examined her.
Not immoralized.
Immortalized, I meant to say that. Feminist scholars re-examined her as a symbol of exploited womanhood and cultural projection.
Absolutely.
Her estate continues to generate millions annually. And in 2022, your wonderful Kim Kardashian wore her happy birthday dress to the Met Gala, sparking renewed debate over how her image is used.
I knew that dress was controversial. I guess I didn't realize it was the dress from that night.
She should have never been allowed to fucking touch that.
Never been allowed to touch that thing.
And she ripped it. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Also had to be sewn in. And to wear it to like, was it the Met Gala, right?
Yeah. Ugh. 2022 Met Gala. Okay. So here's a quote from Arthur Miller. To have survived, she would have had to be stronger than anyone could have been. And people, listen, they like to say that she would have needed impossible strength to survive as she somehow failed by dying. But Marilyn didn't lack strength. She endured abuse, illness, exploitation, and loneliness most of us could never imagine. And it wasn't that she wasn't strong enough. It was that the world was too cruel to someone who kept trying to be soft. And when she started asking questions, when she showed she wasn't just a pretty face, powerful white men decided that she was easier to be discarded, discredited, or silenced rather than to be respected. And maybe that was her real crime, daring to be intellectual in a world that would want her to be an object instead. And Marilyn Monroe's story is not just a cautionary tale about fame. It's a story about resilience against impossible odds, a woman who wanted to be known for her mind, who craved love more than admiration, and who in the end became a myth she could never escape. And tonight, as I have goosebumps and I'm about to cry, we honor not just her legend, but her humanity. And I'll give you with the last quote from Marilyn. Please don't talk to me as if I were a movie star. I am not. I am not that. And that is the tragic tale of the so intelligent and so amazing Marilyn Monroe.
And I say this knowing full well I am one of these, but it's always the goddamn white man. Ruin everything.
Mostly the straight or the closeted.
Right. Yeah. Oh, God. Well done. Well done.
I know that was so long. I'm so sorry. I tried to go so fast, but there's so much you need to know.
There's a lot. You have to have it all.
So let's wrap it up really quick. And knowing everything from her childhood, the foster care, her health issues, all those marriages, her everything. Do you think that this was a murder? Do you think it was a suicide? Do you think, like, what are you more leaning to? Or do you not really have?
Well, okay, let's say it this way. Based on her past and her trauma, I can see where the suicide story came from. I also can picture where the murder came from. Mm-hmm. I just think it was a culmination of a lot of terrible things all coming to a head at once. Where I think if there was a pill in her stomach, it'd be way easier to believe the suicide.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably a confrontation at the same time that she was really going through it. And I think this is not anything that was premeditated, but I do think her life was ended and not by her own doing.
Yeah. Here's what I will say. If she never met the Kennedys, she would have lived.
Well, yeah. There's a lot to unpack in that.
This is very long. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So either leave it in comments or message us, but I'm really curious as to what you think. Or I know that there's more theories and there's way more to her story.
Or call in and tell us your theories. Phone numbers below.
That would be more fun. But this has been really long, so let's wrap it up. What emoji should we leave for Marilyn, do you think?
A star.
I was thinking, okay.
A gold star.
Or a book. A book.
A book. A book.
A book.
Yes. A little red one, preferably.
If we have a red book, but otherwise just a book. Okay, I love you guys so much, but this is so long, and Zach wants to wrap it up because he's got to edit this all. But we love you so much, and you know what to do. But the most important thing that you can do is to creep a really little oddballs.
Goodbye.
Bye.